Welcome to Just Listen Books channel. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification. Predictably Irrational by Dan Ariely is a book that explores the hidden forces that shape our decisions, demonstrating how we often think we're making rational choices when, in fact, our decisions are influenced by irrational factors. The book is structured around various concepts of behavioral economics, illustrating through experiments and analysis how our behaviors deviate from the standard economic assumption of rationality. Chapter 1. The Truth About Relativity. In this chapter, the author delves into how human decision-making is heavily influenced by comparisons, rather than by objective evaluations. He begins by illustrating this concept through a variety of relatable examples and experiments that demonstrate our tendency to compare things directly with one another to make judgments, rather than assessing their value independently. A key example Ariely uses involves subscription plans for a well-known magazine, where consumers are offered a choice between an online subscription, a print subscription, or a combined print and online subscription for a price slightly higher than the print-only option. Ariely found that when given these three options, a vast majority of consumers chose the combined subscription, seeing it as significantly more valuable than the print-only option due to the small price difference. However, when the seemingly inferior online-only option was removed, the preference shifted dramatically, and most consumers chose the print-only subscription, considering it to be the more economical choice. This shift in preference underscores how the presence of a comparatively inferior option can make another option seem more appealing, even if our absolute need or value assessment hasn't changed. Ariely explains this phenomenon using the concept of arbitrary coherence, suggesting that once we have established a value for something in our minds, which can be arbitrary, our future decisions are influenced by this initial anchor, and we make relative value assessments based on it. This anchoring effect, once set, influences not only our immediate choices but can have a long-lasting impact on how we assess value, demonstrating the power of first impressions and initial price settings. To further illustrate the power of relativity in decision-making, Ariely discusses experiments and observations in various contexts, including social comparisons among peers, where people measure their happiness or satisfaction, not in absolute terms but relative to others. This includes salary comparisons, where satisfaction with one's salary is often influenced more by how it compares to what colleagues earn, rather than by the actual amount itself. Ariely's exploration into the truth about relativity challenges the assumption of human rationality in economic theory, which posits that decisions are made based on absolute value. Instead, he convincingly argues that our decisions are profoundly influenced by our environment, the options available to us, and our initial encounters with prices and products. This insight has significant implications for marketers, policymakers, and individuals, suggesting that understanding and leveraging the power of relativity can lead to better outcomes in both business strategies and personal decision-making. Chapter 2. The Fallacy of Supply and Demand. In this chapter, the author challenges the traditional economic theory that prices are determined by the forces of supply and demand, proposing instead that our perceptions of value and willingness to pay can be heavily influenced by initial price points, or anchors. This anchoring effect suggests that once an anchor is set, it shapes our expectations and continues to influence us, even in the face of new information that should logically lead us to adjust our valuation. Ariely begins the chapter with a captivating experiment involving a group of students asked to write down the last two digits of their social security number and consider whether they would pay this amount for items they didn't know the market value of, such as wine, chocolate, and computer equipment. Following this, they bid on these items in an auction. The results were astonishing. Students with higher-ending social security numbers were willing to pay significantly more for the items, indicating that a completely arbitrary number had a profound influence on their perceived value of the items. This experiment demonstrates the power of the first number that comes to mind, in this case the social security digits, in setting an anchor that significantly influences subsequent willingness to pay. Ariely argues that these anchors, once set, are not easily adjusted, leading to a persistence in perceived value that can be surprisingly resistant to change. Further, Ariely explores how initial prices can become self-perpetuating, influencing not only consumer perception, but market prices as well. For instance, if a product is initially launched with a high price tag, it not only creates an anchor that increases consumers' willingness to pay, but can also elevate the perceived quality and value of the product, independent of its intrinsic worth. The chapter also delves into how retailers and marketers exploit the anchoring effect through strategies such as sale pricing, where the original price, the anchor, enhances the attractiveness of the discounted price, driving purchases even if the discounted price is not particularly low. Similarly, high-end retailers maintain high prices to reinforce the anchor of value and exclusivity. Ariely's exploration extends to how anchors affect our daily lives, from how much we are willing to spend on a cup of coffee to the salaries we expect in our jobs. He suggests that being aware of these anchors can help us make more informed decisions and potentially resist the irrational influence they can have on our spending and valuation judgments. The chapter concludes with reflections on the implications of anchoring for economic theory and practice. It suggests a more nuanced understanding of market dynamics, one that accounts for the psychological factors influencing demand beyond the simple mechanics of price and quantity. This insight not only challenges traditional economic models, but also offers valuable strategies for consumers and businesses alike to navigate the complex interplay of pricing, perception, and value. Chapter 3. In this chapter, the author delves into the compelling allure of free and its disproportionate impact on human behavior. He argues that the concept of getting something for free is so enticing that it often leads us to make irrational choices that are not in our best interest, valuing free items more than their actual worth or the cost they may entail. Ariely begins by presenting a series of experiments and observations that illustrate how the promise of free can override other logical considerations in decision-making. One of the most illustrative examples is an experiment involving chocolate. When participants were offered a choice between a high-quality chocolate truffle at a discounted price and a lower-quality chocolate kiss for free, a significant majority opted for the free kiss, even though the truffle was a better deal in terms of both quality and price. The experiment was designed to show that the allure of getting something for free can lead individuals to choose options that are not necessarily in their best interest, economically or otherwise. The author explores the psychological mechanisms behind this phenomenon, suggesting that free offers have a unique emotional charge that can make them seem more valuable than they are. The idea of getting something for nothing seems to bypass our rational decision-making processes, leading to choices that we might not make if a nominal cost were involved. This effect is so strong that it can even lead consumers to acquire items they don't need or particularly want, simply because they are free. Ariely further discusses the implications of the free concept for businesses and marketers who have long understood and capitalized on the power of free offers to attract customers. He cautions, however, that while free can be a powerful marketing tool, it needs to be used wisely. Businesses should consider the long-term relationship with the customer and the perceived value of their offerings, as indiscriminate use of free can devalue a product or service in the eyes of consumers. Moreover, Ariely examines the economic and social implications of our irrational response to free. He points out that while the idea of getting something for nothing is appealing, it can lead to inefficient market outcomes, such as overconsumption, waste, and misallocation of resources. For instance, when companies offer free products or services, it might encourage consumption that wouldn't occur if there were even a minimal charge, leading to overuse or abuse of the offering. The chapter concludes with reflections on how understanding the irrational lure of free can help individuals make better decisions, and how policymakers and businesses can design better strategies that account for this quirk of human behavior. Chapter 4. The Cost of Social Norms. In this chapter, the author introduces the concept of social norms versus market norms, emphasizing how the interplay between these two sets of rules can profoundly affect human relationships and economic transactions. He argues that while market norms govern transactions in terms of clear agreements, quantifiable costs, and expected benefits, such as wages for work, or prices for goods, social norms are about informal understandings, relationships, and exchanges that are not explicitly quantified, like doing a friend a favor or the mutual support between family members. Ariely begins by illustrating the difference between these norms through relatable examples. For instance, imagine being invited to a friend's house for dinner. According to social norms, you might bring a bottle of wine or a dessert as a gesture of appreciation. However, if you were to offer your host $50 for the meal, as you might in a restaurant, a market norm, it would likely be considered offensive. This scenario underscores how mixing social and market norms can lead to awkwardness or even insult, as the former is based on mutual care and respect, while the latter is transactional. The author explores several experiments and observations that demonstrate how the introduction of market norms into social settings can alter behaviors and attitudes, often for the worse. In one example, a daycare center introduced fines for parents who picked up their children late, expecting this to reduce tardiness. Surprisingly, the opposite occurred. Lateness increased. Ariely explains that by introducing a market norm, the fine, the daycare shifted the parent's perspective from a social norm, the guilt and social stigma of being late, to a market transaction, where the fine was seen as a fee for additional service rather than a penalty. This shift highlights a crucial insight. Once market norms enter a social arrangement, they can overshadow social norms, changing the nature of the relationship and often making it harder to revert to the previous social contract. Importantly, Ariely notes that while market norms are straightforward and easily quantifiable, social norms are richer and involve a broader range of human emotions and connections, which can lead to more satisfying and meaningful interactions. Ariely also discusses the implications of this distinction for businesses and policymakers. He suggests that understanding the boundary between social and market norms can help in designing more effective and sensitive policies and business practices. For example, companies that try to motivate their employees solely through financial incentives might undermine the social norms that encourage teamwork, loyalty, and intrinsic motivation, potentially harming productivity and morale in the long run. The chapter concludes with reflections on the importance of recognizing and preserving social norms in a world increasingly dominated by market transactions. Ariely warns against the over-commercialization of social life, advocating for a balance that maintains the integrity of social relationships while acknowledging the role of market norms in facilitating economic activity. By understanding and respecting the difference between these norms, individuals, businesses, and societies can navigate the complex web of human interactions more thoughtfully and effectively. Chapter 5. The Influence of Arousal. This chapter delves into the profound impact that emotional and physiological arousal has on decision-making. Ariely presents compelling evidence to show that people in a state of arousal, whether due to sexual desire, anger, hunger, or other intense emotions, make decisions vastly different from those made in a calm, unaroused state. More critically, he demonstrates how individuals often fail to predict these differences in judgment and behavior when not in an aroused state. Ariely's exploration of this topic begins with an experiment conducted with college students about sexual decision-making. The participants were asked to answer a series of questions regarding their sexual preferences and likelihood of engaging in risky sexual behaviors, both in a non-aroused state and while sexually aroused. The findings were stark. In an aroused state, participants reported a significantly higher willingness to engage in risky behaviors and showed interest in activities they otherwise claimed to find unappealing or unacceptable in their non-aroused state. This experiment highlighted not just the gap between our predictions and actual behavior under arousal, but also the ethical considerations in conducting research on such sensitive topics. This discrepancy between cold, non-aroused, and hot, aroused states of decision-making is what Ariely terms the hot-cold empathy gap. When we are in a cold state, we drastically underestimate the influence of arousal on our behavior, believing we can control our actions and adhere to our morale and safety standards even when in a hot state. This empathy gap can lead to poor decision-making and regrettable actions, as our predictions about our future behavior are often based on a rational, unaroused perspective. The implications of this research extend beyond sexual behavior to other areas of life where arousal plays a role, such as financial decision-making during times of market euphoria or panic, aggressive behavior when angry, or overeating when extremely hungry. Ariely suggests that understanding the influence of arousal on our decision-making can lead to better strategies for managing our behavior. For instance, recognizing that we may make poor decisions under arousal, we can set up mechanisms in advance to prevent ourselves from acting on these impulses, such as avoiding situations where we might be tempted to make risky decisions or implementing rules that limit our actions when in a hot state. Ariely concludes the chapter by reflecting on the importance of designing policies and interventions that take into account the hot-cold empathy gap. For example, sex education programs might be more effective if they not only provide information about safe practices, but also teach students about the impact of arousal on decision-making and how to plan for it. Similarly, strategies for managing other forms of arousal, like anger management techniques or financial safeguards against impulsive trading, can benefit from an awareness of how drastically our state of arousal can alter our judgment and behavior. Overall, Chapter 5 emphasizes the need to acknowledge and plan for the significant impact of emotional and physiological arousal on our decision-making processes. By understanding the hot-cold empathy gap, individuals can take proactive steps to mitigate the risk of poor decisions made in the heat of the moment. Chapter 6. The problem of procrastination and self-control. This chapter tackles the pervasive issue of procrastination, attributing it to a phenomenon known as time inconsistency. This concept describes how people's preferences change over time, particularly how we tend to value immediate rewards more highly than future rewards, even if the future rewards are significantly larger. This inconsistency leads to procrastination and a lack of self-control, as individuals opt for immediate gratification over long-term benefits. Ariely explains that this problem stems from an internal conflict between two selves: the planner, who sets long-term goals and values future benefits, and the doer, who is influenced by immediate emotions and desires. The planner may have intentions for future behavior that align with long-term goals, but the doer often takes over when the moment to act arrives, leading to choices that favor short-term satisfaction at the expense of long-term welfare. To illustrate the impact of time inconsistency on behavior, Ariely describes various experiments and scenarios, including ones related to savings, dieting, and academic deadlines. One notable experiment involved offering students the ability to set their own deadlines for 3 papers. The findings revealed that students who set evenly spaced deadlines performed better and suffered less from procrastination than those who opted for later deadlines, even though they had the freedom to choose. From these observations, Ariely proposes several mechanisms to help overcome procrastination and improve self-control. Central to these mechanisms is the concept of pre-commitment, which involves making a decision in advance that binds oneself to a course of action, thereby limiting future choices and helping the planner self to enforce long-term goals over short-term desires. Examples of pre-commitment strategies include: 1. Self-imposed deadlines. Just as students who set their own deadlines performed better, individuals can impose deadlines on themselves to complete tasks, forcing the doer self to act in accordance with the planner's intentions. 2. Penalty for failure to comply. Attaching a penalty to failure to meet self-imposed deadlines or goals, e.g., a financial penalty paid to a friend if a goal is not met, can increase the cost of procrastination. 3. Commitment devices. Using tools or services that restrict one's ability to access temptations, e.g., website blockers during work hours, can help individuals focus on long-term goals. Ariely emphasizes the importance of recognizing the natural human tendency towards time inconsistency and designing personal and policy interventions that can help individuals and societies achieve more desirable long-term outcomes. By acknowledging our weaknesses in self-control and strategically implementing pre-commitment strategies, we can better align our actions with our long-term interests. The chapter concludes by reflecting on the broader implications of understanding procrastination and self-control, not only for individual well-being, but also for societal issues like savings rates, healthcare, and education. By applying insights from behavioral economics, Ariely suggests, we can devise more effective ways to support people in making decisions that promote their long-term goals and overall happiness. Chapter 7. The High Price of Ownership. This chapter explores the endowment effect, a cognitive bias that causes people to assign more value to things merely because they own them. This phenomenon can lead to a variety of irrational behaviors, including difficulty in parting with possessions even when it's beneficial to do so, and demanding a higher price to sell an item than one is willing to pay to buy it. Ariely introduces the concept with compelling experiments and real-world examples that demonstrate how ownership significantly increases an item's perceived value to its owner. One classic experiment mentioned involves participants being given a mug and then asked to set a price to sell it. The results consistently show that once people own an object, they value it more highly than they did before owning it, and therefore set a selling price much higher than the buying prices set by others who do not own the mug. Another illustrative example is ticket lotteries for highly sought-after events. Ariely points out how individuals who win these lotteries often refuse to sell their tickets at market price, which can be significantly higher than the original price. The discrepancy between the winner's valuation of the tickets and the market valuation can be attributed to the endowment effect. The mere fact of owning the tickets increases their value to the winners beyond the impersonal market price. Ariely delves deeper into the psychological underpinnings of the endowment effect, suggesting that it is tied to a broader range of human emotions and behaviors, including loss aversion, the idea that losses are felt more acutely than gains. Once we own something, losing it feels like a loss much greater than the joy of acquiring it, which drives us to value it more highly. The chapter also explores the implications of the endowment effect in various contexts, such as real estate, where sellers might insist on prices higher than market value due to their personal attachment and perceived value of their property. This effect can lead to inefficiencies in the market, with properties remaining unsold due to a gap between sellers' expectations and buyers' willingness to pay. Ariely suggests that being aware of the endowment effect can help individuals make more rational decisions about their possessions and investments. Recognizing the irrational influence that ownership exerts on our valuation processes can lead to better decision-making in personal finance, negotiations, and consumer behavior. Finally, Ariely discusses potential strategies to mitigate the endowment effect, including focusing on the objective attributes of an item rather than its sentimental value and considering the opportunity costs of holding on to possessions that might be better utilized or appreciated by others. By understanding and accounting for the endowment effect, individuals and businesses can navigate around this cognitive bias to make more rational economic and personal decisions. Chapter 8. Keeping doors open. This chapter delves into the common human tendency to want to keep as many options open as possible, often to our own detriment. Ariely argues that while flexibility is seen as a valuable asset, the compulsion to avoid closing doors can lead us to spread ourselves too thin, ultimately hindering our ability to fully commit to and benefit from any single opportunity. Ariely uses a variety of experiments and examples to illustrate how the fear of missing out, FOMO, can cause individuals to hold on to options they never utilize, sacrificing quality and satisfaction in the process. One striking example involves an experiment with participants playing a computer game that required them to click on doors to earn points. Even when one door was clearly the most beneficial, players often clicked on less profitable doors just to keep them from disappearing, thereby earning fewer points overall. This behavior reflects a broader pattern in life choices, where the desire to keep options open can lead to suboptimal outcomes. The chapter explores several domains where the desire to maintain flexibility can be particularly counterproductive. Career. Constantly looking for better job opportunities can prevent individuals from investing in their current position, hindering professional growth and satisfaction. Relationships. An unwillingness to commit to a relationship can prevent deep connections and long-term happiness. Education and hobbies. Failing to commit to a specific area of study or interest because of the desire to keep exploring can lead to a jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none scenario. Ariely argues that the root of this issue lies in our overvaluation of potential and possibilities over the present, a bias that leads us to underestimate the benefits of commitment. By spreading our resources, time, attention, emotional energy, too thinly across too many options, we fail to engage deeply with any single option, diminishing our overall satisfaction and effectiveness. The benefits of commitment, as Ariely points out, include a deeper sense of satisfaction, improved performance, and, paradoxically, an increase in freedom. Freedom from the anxiety of choosing and the freedom to fully explore the depths of a single path. Commitment allows for a richer, more focused experience, and often leads to better outcomes than if we were to keep all our options open. To counteract the detrimental effects of overvaluing openness, Ariely suggests strategies such as setting deadlines for making decisions, which forces a commitment and frees us to move forward. Limiting options. Consciously, recognizing that more choices are not always better and can lead to decision fatigue and paralysis. Valuing depth over breadth. Appreciating the richness that comes from deeply exploring a subject, relationship, or career. Keeping doors open challenges readers to reconsider the value they place on flexibility and to recognize the hidden costs associated with an inability or unwillingness to commit. By understanding the benefits of closing doors, individuals can make more satisfying choices in their lives, leading to greater fulfillment and success. Chapter 9. The Effect of Expectations. This chapter delves into the powerful influence that expectations have on our perceptions and experiences, particularly regarding products and services. Ariely presents a compelling case that what we expect to see, feel, taste, or experience can significantly shape our actual experiences, often in ways that defy objective assessments. Through a series of experiments involving items like beer and painkillers, Ariely illustrates how expectations, formed by prior knowledge, stereotypes, marketing, and pricing, can dramatically alter our subjective experiences. One of the key experiments Ariely describes involves beer with a few drops of balsamic vinegar added, a twist most people would assume ruins the beer. When participants were unaware of the vinegar, they enjoyed the beer more than regular beer. However, when they were informed about the vinegar beforehand, their enjoyment significantly decreased. This experiment underscores how expectations can influence not just our perceptions but our actual enjoyment of an experience. Another poignant example is a study on the effectiveness of painkillers, where participants reported different levels of pain relief from identical pills, simply because some were told the pills were more expensive. The perceived value, influenced by price, directly impacted the effectiveness of the painkillers, demonstrating how expectations can even influence physical experiences in what Ariely terms the placebo effect of price. Ariely explores the mechanisms behind this phenomenon, suggesting that expectations can lead to a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, where our brain adjusts our perceptions to match what we anticipate, thus reinforcing the original expectation. This process can occur without conscious awareness, subtly influencing our judgments and behaviors. The implications of these findings are far-reaching, affecting not only individual consumers but also businesses and policymakers. For consumers, understanding the effect of expectations can lead to more informed choices, helping to counteract the influence of marketing and pricing on our perceptions. For businesses, it highlights the importance of managing customer expectations through marketing, pricing strategies, and product presentation to enhance satisfaction and loyalty. Ariely also discusses the ethical considerations involved in shaping expectations, cautioning against deceptive practices that might exploit these psychological effects. Instead, he advocates for using the power of expectations to improve actual experiences, suggesting that aligning expectations with reality can lead to genuinely enhanced satisfaction without resorting to manipulation. The chapter concludes by encouraging readers to be more mindful of how their expectations are formed, and to consider how these expectations might be influencing their perceptions and experiences. By becoming aware of the effect of expectations, individuals can better navigate their choices and experiences, leading to greater satisfaction and a more accurate understanding of the world around them. Chapter 10. The Power of Price. This chapter builds upon the previous exploration of expectations by specifically examining how price itself can affect our perception of quality and satisfaction. Ariely argues that beyond just setting expectations, the price of a product can directly influence our experience of its quality, with higher prices often leading to higher perceived value and satisfaction, even when the actual quality does not differ. This chapter provides a deep dive into the psychological effects of pricing on consumer behavior and satisfaction, challenging the conventional wisdom that price and quality are always correlated. Ariely presents compelling evidence through various experiments, including one involving wine tasting, where participants' enjoyment of the wine was significantly influenced by the price they were told the wine cost, regardless of the wine's actual market price. Participants reported enjoying more expensive wines more, even when in some cases they were actually tasting the same wine presented at different price points. This experiment illustrates how price can act as a powerful placebo, enhancing subjective experiences of quality and satisfaction. Another experiment involved a pain relief product advertised at different prices to two groups. The group that was told the product was more expensive reported better pain relief, underscoring how expectations shaped by price can have tangible effects on our physical experience of a product's effectiveness. Ariely delves into the psychological mechanisms behind these phenomena, including how higher prices lead to increased expectations of quality, which in turn can enhance the actual experience of the product through a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. He also discusses the role of price as a form of communication, signaling information about a product's quality in the absence of other knowledge. The implications of these findings are vast, touching on marketing, consumer behavior, and even healthcare. For businesses, understanding the power of price can inform pricing strategies that optimize both sales and customer satisfaction. For consumers, recognizing how price influences perception can lead to more mindful purchasing decisions, helping to avoid the trap of equating high price with high quality. Ariely also raises ethical questions about the use of price as a tool to manipulate perceptions of quality. He suggests that while leveraging the power of price can be beneficial, it should be done transparently and ethically, with a focus on delivering real value to consumers. The chapter concludes with a reflection on the broader societal implications of the power of price. It challenges both consumers and businesses to consider how pricing strategies and perceptions affect not only individual choices and satisfaction, but also economic and social welfare. By better understanding the psychological underpinnings of how we perceive price and quality, we can make more informed decisions that lead to better outcomes for all stakeholders involved. Chapter 11. The Context of Our Character, Part 1. This chapter takes a closer look at dishonesty, challenging the traditional view that people make a simple cost-benefit analysis when deciding whether to cheat or steal. Ariely proposes that the decision to act dishonestly is far more complex and significantly influenced by social norms and environmental cues. Ariely begins the chapter with a series of experiments designed to understand what factors influence the likelihood of cheating. In one experiment, participants were given the opportunity to self-report the number of puzzles they solved, knowing that each reported solve would increase their compensation. With no possibility of getting caught, the experiment revealed that many people cheated, but only to a certain extent. This finding contradicted the simple model of cheating based on risk and reward, suggesting that other forces were at play. Further experiments introduced various conditions to explore these forces. For example, when participants were reminded of moral standards, by recalling the 10 Commandments or signing an honor code before the test, cheating decreased significantly, regardless of religious background or the likelihood of being caught. This suggested that moral reminders could activate ethical standards and norms, influencing behavior. Another key finding was the influence of social norms on dishonesty. When participants observed another individual cheating, they were more likely to cheat themselves, especially if they perceived the cheater to be part of their in-group, e.g., wearing a shirt with the logo of the participant's university. This demonstrated how the behavior of those around us, and our identification with them can significantly affect our own ethical decisions. Ariely also discusses the concept of cognitive dissonance and how people rationalize dishonesty to maintain a self-image of integrity. The experiments and discussions in this chapter illustrate that cheating and dishonesty are not purely rational decisions based on a cold calculation of risks and rewards. Instead, they are deeply influenced by moral cues, social norms, and the context in which decisions are made. These insights have profound implications for how institutions can foster ethical behavior. By creating environments that emphasize moral values, and by understanding the social dynamics at play, it may be possible to reduce dishonest behavior. Ariely concludes the chapter by suggesting that understanding the psychological and social factors that influence dishonesty can help develop more effective strategies for promoting integrity and ethical behavior in various settings, from schools and businesses to governments and other organizations. Chapter 12. The Context of Our Character, Part 2. This chapter continues the exploration into the nuances of dishonesty that Dan Ariely began in the previous chapter of Predictably Irrational. This chapter dives deeper into how individuals' self-image and the malleability of their moral compass influence their decisions to engage in dishonest behavior. Ariely puts forth the idea that while people want to benefit from being dishonest, they also strive to view themselves as honorable individuals. This tension leads to a complex negotiation of personal ethics, where individuals seek to maximize their gains from dishonesty while minimizing damage to their self-image. A central theme of this chapter is the concept of self-concept maintenance, which refers to the psychological mechanism people use to cheat or act dishonestly up to a point where they can still maintain a positive self-image. Ariely suggests that there's a threshold of dishonesty people are willing to tolerate in themselves without feeling like they've compromised their integrity. This threshold varies depending on several factors, including the social norms of their environment and how they rationalize their behavior. Ariely further investigates this phenomenon through a series of experiments that demonstrate how people are more likely to cheat in situations where they can more easily rationalize their dishonesty. For instance, when participants could cheat in a way that seemed less direct, such as by cheating to benefit a charity, they were more likely to do so. This finding illustrates how the flexibility of our moral compass allows us to justify certain dishonest acts while still considering ourselves good people. Another significant finding from Ariely's research is the role of reminders of morality in reducing dishonesty. Just as in the previous chapter, where recalling the 10 Commandments or signing an honor code reduced cheating, this chapter delves into how symbols and reminders of ethical values can act as psychological cues that encourage honesty. For example, having participants read an honor code before engaging in a task where they could cheat led to a decrease in dishonest behavior, even in the absence of any enforcement mechanism. Ariely also discusses the implications of these findings for organizations and societies. He suggests that creating environments that constantly remind individuals of moral values and ethical standards can help reduce dishonest behavior. This can include more than just formal codes of conduct. It can also involve cultivating a culture where honesty is valued and celebrated. The chapter concludes with reflections on the complexity of human morality. Ariely argues that understanding the psychological underpinnings of dishonesty can lead to more effective policies and interventions to promote integrity. By acknowledging the role of self-image in ethical decision-making and leveraging the power of moral reminders, organizations and societies can foster a culture of honesty that aligns with our desire to see ourselves as good, moral individuals. This insight is crucial for developing strategies that not only deter dishonesty, but also encourage a positive sense of self and commitment to ethical behavior. Chapter 13. Beer and Free Lunches. In this chapter, Ariely synthesizes the insights from the entire book, arguing that a deeper understanding of our irrational behaviors and tendencies can significantly enhance decision-making processes in policymaking, business strategies, and personal life choices. He revisits the various irrationalities discussed throughout the book, such as the influence of relativity, the impact of social norms, the allure of free options, and the effects of expectations and self-image on our actions. to illustrate how these pervasive behaviors shape our world in profound ways. Ariely begins by reiterating the importance of recognizing that our decisions are often not the product of rational deliberation, but are influenced by a complex set of irrational biases and forces. He emphasizes that this understanding is not just an academic exercise, but has practical applications that can lead to better outcomes in various spheres of life. In the realm of policymaking, Ariely suggests that by acknowledging the irrational aspects of human behavior, policymakers can design interventions, regulations, and programs that more effectively address societal challenges. For instance, understanding the endowment effect can help in crafting environmental policies that leverage people's natural tendency to overvalue what they own, encouraging conservation efforts. Similarly, insights into how social norms influence behavior can inform public health campaigns that aim to change unhealthy behaviors, not just through information dissemination, but by shifting societal norms. In the business world, Ariely points out that a deeper grasp of irrational consumer behaviors can lead to more effective marketing strategies, product designs, and customer engagement tactics. By appreciating how expectations and the context of choices influence consumer decisions, businesses can better meet customer needs and create value. Additionally, understanding the dynamics of honesty and dishonesty can help organizations build stronger, more ethical corporate cultures. For individuals, Ariely emphasizes that recognizing our own irrationalities can lead to more informed and beneficial personal decisions. Whether it's making smarter financial choices, improving relationships, or enhancing health and well-being, an awareness of the biases that lead us astray can empower us to take control of our decisions and act in ways that better align with our long-term goals and values. The chapter, and the book, concludes with a call to embrace the predictably irrational aspects of human nature. Ariely argues that by understanding and anticipating our irrational tendencies, we can design better systems, policies, and interventions that account for these human factors, leading to outcomes that improve society and individual well-being. The insights gained from Predictably Irrational are not just about uncovering the flaws in human reasoning. They're about leveraging this knowledge to create a world that better accommodates human nature, fostering environments that help individuals and societies thrive. Predictably Irrational challenges the notion that we make decisions in a rational vacuum, instead showing through a wide range of experiments and examples how our behaviors are predictably irrational. This exploration helps shed light on the complexity of human decision-making and opens pathways for better decision-making strategies. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Click subscribe and hit the bell to be the first to enjoy our upcoming audiobooks.